I left off on question 23 on the previous video. In this video, we've got a frequency distribution that they want you to finish filling out, and then an added relative frequency column, which is your proportion of frequency out of the total. So if we're just looking at the frequency column, remember that they need to add up to your sample size. That's how many students you surveyed on how many courses they took. So they've got 10 and 15. Well, there's a total of 70, so you're just going to subtract the 10 and the 15 or 25 from 70, and that will give you the remainder for that are taking 3 courses. Now, relative frequency, to find it, you do the proportion of each frequency out of the total, or part over whole. So to get the 14%, or the 0.14, they did 10 divided by 70 and then rounded to the nearest hundredth, so the 2 decimal places. So for this column, we're going to do 15 divided by 70, and we're going to round to 2 decimal places. So looking at the 4, that is not going to round the 0.21 up, so we're going to have 0.21. Make sure you round however it tells you to round. Here it says round to 2 decimal places. If not, it will mark your answers wrong just for rounding incorrectly. And then the last one, you're going to do 45 out of the total, which will be 0.64. So remember, relative frequency is part over whole. So the part of that class out of the total. Next, we have a stem and leaf plot. Remember, your stems here are your tens place, and your leaves are each ones place. So this represents a 92 and a 97, and an 82, an 82, an 82, 84, 86, 89, and so on. So it says, what is the number of students who scored in the 50s? Well, these are all our 50s, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that scored in the 50s. On number 25, we've got a histogram, which is the x-axis is your class width. So this one is going from 1 up to 6. Now it doesn't include 6, so it's really going from 1 to 5. And then this second one goes from 6 to 10, and 11 to 15, and so on. And the y-axis is the frequency. So we had 9 that were between 1 and 6. So our class width is going to be the distance from the start of one class to the start of the next. So 6 minus 1 would be 5 is our class width. And then the sample size would be all the frequencies added up. So you're going to take 9 here, plus 5, plus 2, plus 3, plus 8, plus 10. So add all your frequencies up to get the sample size. On this next question, we've got a frequency distribution that they want you to make a histogram out of. So just match the one according. So the first one should have 2, the second one should go up to 2, and so on. And all of our x-axis look to be the same, so you really just have to make sure your bars are the right height to these frequencies. 27, I'll let y'all look at that one. We're just looking at misleading graphs and what's wrong with them. On 28, it asks you to find the median, which means we're going to put those numbers in order and find the middle. Now, I don't want you to do that by hand. I want you to do it on StatCrunch. It'll just be too time consuming to list these in order. So I want you to highlight them all, and then you can right click or do Control C or Command C if you're on a MacBook, and then go to StatCrunch, and we're going to make sure the first box is selected, and Control V or Command V to paste. Now it's going to put them in 2 columns. We want it all in 1 column. So we're going to highlight the second column and Control X, which will cut, and Control V will paste that below. Just make sure you don't paste on top of anything. You can go back and check, make sure you had 16 numbers and you have 16 numbers here. Once you have them in one column, you're going to do stats, summary stats, columns, and then that's in var1. So we're going to pick var1 and it'll throw whatever you selected over here on the right. And then it's going to do it defaults to all these summary stats. It'll do even more, but the ones that are in the darker gray, it's going to automatically do. You can see they're already over on the right side. So you don't have to do anything else. Just select var1 and then compute, and you've got your summary stats, and our median is right there. So it has put them in order and found the middle number for you, the median. Now, if something is messed up, I've had a couple students that have, when they go to paste, it pastes it all in the first box instead of in the columns. The workaround to that is if you go to Data, Load, From File, From Paste, you can paste your numbers right in there. And then you just have to name it something, uncheck the first line as column, and these would be separated by white space, and you would do upload and it would load them in there for you. So you can do that if your StatCrunch is messing up and won't load into the columns like I showed you. So that gives us our median of 65.5. The next problem is asking you to find the percentile of a number. I do not want you to use StatCrunch for this. I want you to use the process from your exam 1 handout, or what we did in the notes or in the lecture videos. So we're going to find the percentile of a data value. So you're going to follow these steps to find the percentile of that data value. Let me show you how to do that. So here I want to know, I've got 60 right here. I want to know what percentile that is, or K. So to find K, you're going to do X plus 0.5 Y over N, and then you're going to multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percent. Now the key here is knowing what X is and what Y is. X is how many numbers are less than the data value you're working with. So how many data values are less than 60? So I've got 5, 10, 15, 20 values are less than 60. So that's going to be my X. Now Y is how many 60s are there? Well, there's only 160 in my list. So actually my Y should be 1 because there's only 160. So K here will be 20 plus 0.5 times 1 divided by the sample size, which here is 30, and then you're going to multiply that by 100. So we're going to end up with 20.5 divided by 30 times 100. And then you can punch that in the calculator, and that will give you K. Let me go back to my calculator. So I've got 20.5 divided by 30 times 100. And that gives me 68.33, and you're going to round to the nearest percent, so that would be 68%. Now don't get this confused with 60 is not your percentile. This is saying that 60 separates 68% of your data from the other 22% or 32%. Okay, so it's separating. Everything below that is 68% of your data, and then that's separating from the rest. On a frequency distribution table asking for percentiles, we really don't even need these two middle columns. Let me show you on here. We use these middle two columns to get the cumulative frequency, but once you have that, you don't even need to look at that. What I want you to focus on is the number of siblings and their cumulative frequency, and that's in percents in this case. So when we want the 38th percentile, we're saying what separates 38% from the rest. Well, notice that 38% ends right here. So it would be between 1 and 2 siblings. So your answer there is going to be 1.5 siblings. Now I know you can't have a half of a sibling, but it's asking for that separation point between there. On the next one, it wants the percentile for 11, and again, we don't really need to focus on the frequency or the relative frequency. We want the cumulative frequency. Notice that 11 falls in this category, so it's encompassed within the 0 times of flossing per week. So because it's inside of that class, your answer here would be 0. So if it's in the class, you go with directly over to that number, but if it's on the end of it, you go between. So if I said 14% or P of 14, then my answer would be between 0 and 1. But because 11 is within 0 to 14%, 11% is inside of there, it's going to be your 0 times per week. So those are those two. On 32, we want the 5-number summary. Again, use StatCrunch for this. You're going to copy and paste that. Control C, go to StatCrunch, Control V, and you're going to highlight this row, Control X, Control V to paste. So they're all in one column. And you're going to do stats, summary stats, columns, var1, and compute. And remember, your 5-number summary is your min, then Q1, then the median, then Q3, and then the max, in that order. Make sure you put them in order. They're not in order on this printout, but it should be from least to greatest. So your minimum, Q1, median, which is Q2, Q3, and then the max is 87. And make sure you put those in order, and that can be done from StatCrunch. So practice on StatCrunch as much as you can. If you have any issues with it, you need to know about it before you actually take the test. So if you're having problems with getting it to work, please email me as soon as you can. Looking at 33, we've got a box plot, and it wants the 5-number summary. You do not need to go anywhere. All the information, it comes from the box plot. So each quartile is the beginning of your 5-number summary. So it starts here at your minimum is 5. The next start of the next box is your Q1, which would be 7. The line between the two boxes, this is really like one box and then another box. It's not one long box, it's 2 boxes. That separation is your median or your Q2. The end of that box is your Q3, and then the end of that is your maximum, would be 19. So all that information comes off of that box plot. Just make sure you put it in order. For mean, you're going to use StatCrunch just like I did the median and the 5-number summary. Mode, you can also use StatCrunch, or you can just look at it and pick out the mode. This one, is bimodal because it has two